People who say envy is a slow poison have clearly never met Melissa. For her, jealousy wasn't slow at all. It arrived like Nipah light. 1 second everything was normal. The next, jabam! Everywhere went bright, hot and chaotic. The day trouble started was supposed to be an ordinary Tuesday morning in Riverbank Estate, a quiet neighbourhood where everyone minded their business, except when there was gist to share. But that morning, people had gist. Oh, gist that would last them the whole month. It began with a scream. Not the playful type children shout when they see ice cream. No! This one sounded like someone's heart had been plucked out and tossed into traffic. The kind of scream that would make even a Lagos bus conductor pause and look back. It came from Melissa. She was standing right in front of her best friend's gate. Her wig slightly shifted to the left. Her beautiful gown looks awkward. Slippers mismatched, pointing at something that had clearly broken her spirit. Neighbours rushed out with their phones, hoping they weren't too late to record premium drama. What did Melissa see? A truth she wished she could unknow. A truth she wished had expired before reaching her eyes. But we'll come back to that. Let's rewind. Because stories like this don't start with screams. They begin quietly, with friendship, dreams, promises, and slow-burning envy disguised as love. Before adulthood scattered everything, Melissa and Clara grew up like two halves of one stubborn coconut. Their childhood wasn't glamorous, far from it. They lived in Hampton Row, a noisy cluster of tiny apartments where everybody knew everybody's business, and privacy was something you prayed for, not something you got. They bathed together under the evening sky with bucket water, carried each other's school bags, and fought for who would eat the bigger piece of meat on Saturdays. If Clara sneezed, Melissa brought tissue. If Melissa cried, Clara carried the fight on her head, like snack sellers in traffic. Their mothers would shake their heads and sigh. These girls again, born separately but behaving like twins. Growing up didn't break their bond. They still whispered dreams at night like they were sharing secrets with the moon. Clara was the soft one, quiet, thoughtful, the girl who apologized before speaking. Melissa, the exact opposite, loud, dramatic, always dreaming of a future bigger than their whole street. She wanted wealth, travel, and a husband with the kind of money that made problems disappear. But even with their differences, they held each other tight. Nothing could come between them, until life entered the chat. By their final year in university, Clara had started running a small catering hustle. That's how she met Ethan Mendez, the kind of man that made you wonder if God had favourites. He was neat, calm, respectful, and dangerously handsome. The kind of man that opens doors, pays for fuel, and helps you carry trays without forming. Before Clara knew it, her heart was doing salto gymnastics. When she introduced Ethan to Melissa, Melissa screamed like she won Bet90. "My baby Clara don't get husband material! Ah! God is good!" And honestly, at first she meant it. She was happy for her friend. Ethan seemed like the perfect gentleman, too perfect in fact. Then he proposed. Not those casual, "will you marry me?" proposals people do in their sitting room. No. Ethan went full romantic cinema mode. Candlelit dinner in Harbourview restaurant, roses everywhere, a ring that sparkled like it had its own generator. People in the restaurant clapped. Someone even shouted, "Say yes, a beg," because Nigerians love love when it's not their own. Clara said yes. The wedding? A full-blown national event. The kind people streamed on Instagram Live. A hall decorated like heaven was having its annual open day. Clara looked breathtaking in a gown straight out of a bridal magazine. Ethan looked like a man who had prayed, fasted, and waited for his miracle. They danced. They laughed. Guests whispered, "Clara has entered enjoyment, oh. This is marriage." And through it all, Melissa stood by her side as maid of honour, smiling wide for pictures. But deep inside her heart, something squeezed. Not hate, not anger, just a quiet sting, a whisper. Why her? Why not me? She swallowed it, buried it, pretended it didn't exist. But envy is stubborn. Once it enters, it doesn't pack out easily. After the wedding that practically shut down Riverbank City, Clara carried her box into Ethan's mansion like a girl entering heaven on installment payment. The house wasn't just fine. No, it was the kind of house that made you remove your slippers at the entrance even though nobody told you to. A massive cream-white duplex standing like it paid its own tithe. Wide glass windows. Polished marble floors that could show your reflection better than your bathroom mirror. Cars lined up in the compound like obedient soldiers. SUV convertible, one sports car that could probably outrun Clara's entire village. Inside that house, Clara felt like God had finally looked at her and said, "My daughter, upgrade." So the day Melissa visited for the first time, she stopped at the gate for a full 10 seconds, wondering if Google Maps accidentally redirected her to Banana Island. When Clara opened the door with her usual gentle smile, Melissa entered with her mouth slightly open. "You live here? Permanently?" she asked, blinking rapidly. Clara laughed modestly. "Nah, hero. Come in, Jaw." Melissa stepped into the living room and almost greeted the chandelier because it looked like a human being. She touched the velvet sofa like she was touching a newborn baby. She even inhaled deeply, one of those long, suspicious sniffs. "Wow, this place smells like wealth and foreign air. Are you sure I shouldn't wash my hands before sitting?" Clara giggled. "Melissa, behave!" But inside Melissa's chest, something warm and bitter rolled like pepper soup stuck in the wrong throat. This life should have been mine, she thought, before quickly swallowing the thought like ache tablets. Clara took her around. The kitchen gleamed like a cooking show set. The walk-in closet? My dear, it wasn't a closet. It was a boutique with citizenship. Clothes arranged by colour. Shoes lined like runway models. Perfumes that looked like they were smuggled straight from Paris. Melissa smiled. She hugged Clara. She complimented everything. But envy had already planted its small seed. Tiny, harmless looking, pretending to be admiration. For now. Besties, before we go far, let's look at Clara's marriage behind closed doors. At first, Clara believed she had walked into exactly what she prayed for. Peace, love, soft life. Ethan opened doors for her. He brought her flowers. He even sent her cute morning texts even when he was in the next room. To outsiders, Ethan was the kind of man you prayed your village people wouldn't block from finding you. But slowly, quietly, the cracks began. It started with one night, then many nights when Ethan didn't come home. Clara would sit in the massive living room, legs tucked under her, staring at the front door like it owed her salary. Her food grew cold. Her eyes grew tired. When Ethan finally returned at 2 a.m., smelling like alcohol and somebody else's perfume, Clara asked softly, "Ethan, you didn't pick my calls." His eyes changed, dark, sharp, dangerous. Before she could blink, "Jibra!" The slap sounded like someone shut the fridge loudly. Clara froze. Her ears rang. Her heart went into hiding, but almost immediately, Ethan's face softened like butter on hot bread. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm sorry. You know I hate nagging. You provoked me." He kissed her forehead gently as if he wasn't the same person who reset her brain seconds earlier. The next morning, brand new iPhone. A designer handbag she had only seen on celebrities. And so the cycle began. He hurts her, he apologizes, he buys gifts, she forgives, he hurts her again. Luxury became her bandage, money became her makeup, fear became her roommate. Clara wanted to tell someone, her mother, her sister, even Melissa, but shame held her throat hostage. How do you tell people that the man they call husband material 1,000 yards uses his hands like he bought them on discount? So she learned the art of hiding. Concealer for the cheek, powder for the jawline, long sleeves for the arms, smile for the world. And everyone believed her, especially Melissa. And whenever Melissa visited, she admired everything like she was touring a museum of soft life. "This your house, Anne? Even the flowers look rich. Do they eat imported fertilizer?" she joked, laughing but calculating inside. Ethan always greeted her warmly. "Melissa, good to see you." "Hope traffic wasn't wicked today," she would chuckle shyly. "Not too bad, sir." Meanwhile, Clara sat beside them, smiling like everything was okay, hiding the palm Ethan nearly crushed the night before. The more Melissa visited, the more her admiration turned into longing. At night, she lay on her tiny bed in her small apartment, staring at her cracked ceiling, thinking, Clara has everything. A mansion, cars, money, a caring husband. If it were me, I would worship that man. Some people don't know what they have. She didn't know the truth. Clara never let her see it. She never saw the bruises, never heard the insults, never witnessed the tears. All she saw was the soft life and the man who seemed to treat Clara like a queen. And like weed growing after rainfall, Melissa's envy stretched, spread, and slowly began to flower. At first, Melissa behaved herself, truly. She told herself it was just admiration, nothing serious. But admiration is like Gary. Add small water and it will rise. Soon, admiration became desire. Desire became daydream. Daydream turned into full PhD-level bitterness. One night, lying on her mattress in her small apartment in Riverbank City, Melissa stared at her ceiling fan and whispered, "If a man like Ethan were mine, I would treat him like he's made of pure gold. Not this Clara that doesn't even appreciate what she has." Of course, the fan didn't answer her. It just continued chopping the air. From that week, Melissa's visits to Clara's mansion turned into a fashion parade. No more joggers and casual t-shirts, no more bonnet tied like she was fighting battle. No, she came prepared, fitted dresses that hugged her body like they signed contract, subtle perfume that floated into the room before she did. Jewelry that sparkled with just enough audacity. She would laugh loudly around Ethan, touch her hair like a Nollywood actress, cross her legs delicately and say things like, "Ethan, you're such a responsible man. Ethan, the way you treat Clara, any woman would be blessed to have you. You're different. Honestly, you are." Clara never noticed the tone. She was too busy hiding the bruises under her sleeves. But Ethan noticed. Men like him always notice. Not because he wanted Melissa. No, he just recognized the scent of desperation when he saw one. Sometimes he even smirked behind her back, the way someone smirks when watching a toddler attempt algebra. And the more he ignored her, the harder Melissa tried. She followed him around casually, offered to help him carry small things, sat in the closest chair whenever he entered a room, giggled at jokes he didn't even crack, and even offered to help with errands that nobody asked her to run. She started taking pictures in Clara's house, posing with the flowers, posing with the chandelier in the background, posing on the staircase like she was the lady of the house, then posting them online with captions like, "Marriage is sweet when you marry your best friend." My dear, she was not referring to Clara, she meant Ethan. But no matter how much she sprinkled herself around Ethan, he didn't bite. In fact, he barely gave her more than polite nods. That thing pained her. One day after visiting Clara, Melissa walked home like someone whose destiny had just been rejected by a man who wasn't even looking at her. For 4 days she didn't sleep. She tossed left, she tossed right. She even lay upside down like that would help. All she saw in her mind was Clara wearing silk robes, living in luxury, sleeping on a king-sized bed, while she, Melissa, was sweating on a mattress that squeaked every time she blinked. She pictured herself in Clara's clothes, in Clara's car, in Clara's bedroom and beside Clara's husband. Ethan, Ethan, Ethan. The name became her lullaby and her nightmare. She prayed. She fasted. She flirted harder. Nothing worked. And then Melissa did what desperate women in Nigerian stories do when common sense packs its load and leaves. She crossed a line. One afternoon, with her heart boiling like hot rice, Melissa marched to the outskirts of Riverbank City, an area people only visited for 2 reasons. Spiritual problem. Stronger spiritual problem. She went straight to see the herbalist, an elderly man with quiet eyes and a voice that sounded like dry leaves brushing the ground. People whispered that he handled matters like broken marriages, tied hearts, and destinies that needed rearrangement. The old man looked at her for a long moment, like he could see the chaos swirling inside her. "Why have you come, my daughter?" he asked. Melissa swallowed. Her voice was shaky, but her envy was louder than her fear. "I want Ethan," she said. "I want him to leave his wife and love only me." The herbalist blinked calmly. He sighed like someone who had seen too many humans make foolish decisions over foolish men. This kind of work is not reversible, he warned. If I bind your life to his, you must never leave him. Even if he hurts you, even if he destroys you, your destinies will be tied until death. The warning brushed past her like a harmless breeze. I don't care, she insisted. I want him. Do it. He shook his head slowly, almost pitying her. Once the charm enters the river, he said, your choice becomes your final destiny. Melissa nodded like a student rushing to sign attendance. I accept. The room thickened with smoke as he burned herbs. He tied red and black threads together. He chanted words Melissa didn't understand. He wrote Ethan's name on a small piece of paper and placed it inside a clay pot. The floor vibrated faintly. Something unseen brushed against Melissa's skin. Her heart skipped, raced, then calmed, like a force had wrapped around her. The herbalist wrapped the finished charm in cloth. This must be thrown into the river tonight, he said. After that, there is no turning back. Melissa watched him walk away with the charm, her heart thumping with misplaced victory. Melissa watched him walk away with the charm, her heart thumping with misplaced victory. She believed she was about to claim the life she deserved. She didn't know she had just signed a spiritual contract with consequences waiting like shadows. She had no idea that she was sealing her own fate. When the spell started working, it was not the way she imagined. The change didn't creep in slowly. It struck overnight, like Nipah taking light in the middle of a hot romance movie. One moment, Ethan was still pretending to be a reasonable human being. The next moment, he woke up acting like Clara's existence offended his ancestors. It started small. No good morning, no how was your night, not even a grunt. His eyes turned cold, like chilled pure water sachets straight from deep freezer. He stopped touching her, stopped talking to her, stopped sleeping in their bedroom. Sometimes he didn't return home at all. Clara would sit on the living room sofa, wrapped in a blanket, waiting, her dinner cold, her tears warm, her heart confused. One morning, without any warning, Ethan marched into the room and said, Clara, leave my house. Just like that. Like he was announcing weather report. Clara blinked fast, thinking she didn't hear well. Ethan? What did I do? He didn't explain. He didn't shout. He didn't negotiate. He simply dragged her suitcases like a dispatcher rider doing express delivery, dropped them outside the gate, and shut the door. The gate clicked. The marriage ended. Just like that. Clara walked away from the mansion slowly, tears streaming down her face, her heart shattering with every step. She went straight to her mother's house in Riverbank City, humiliated, quiet, carrying pain she had hidden for so long. And somewhere across town, Melissa was smiling at her mirror like someone rehearsing for a Miss Universe pageant. The charm had worked. That evening, Melissa's phone rang. Ethan. Her heart nearly somersaulted. Come to the house, he said. No affection, no warmth, just an urgent command. But to Melissa's ears, it sounded like wedding bells. She jumped up, ironed her dress 3 times, powdered her face, brushed her wig until it shone like new paint, and headed straight to the mansion. When she stepped inside, she expected soft music, candles, and maybe a romantic hug. Instead, the house felt cold, quiet, dark. Ethan looked different. His eyes were darker, harsher, almost hollow. But Melissa ignored all the warning signs because finally she had replaced Clara. 1 week later, Ethan married her. She entered the mansion not as a visitor, but as Mrs. Melissa Mendez, the new madam of the house. She believed she had won. Oh, she did win, but only the suffering part. The first beating happened before the end of honeymoon. She simply asked, please, what's the Wi-Fi password? G-BAM! Her phone flew to the floor like it had wings. He smashed it. Her mouth hung open. How dare you ask me such questions? Before she could process anything, slap. She hit the ground. Melissa was shocked. Was this part of the charm package? She wiped her tears, telling herself, it's stress. He'll calm down. My sister, he did not calm down. The next day, he hit her again. The day after that, another beating. In the kitchen, in the hallway, in the car, in the compound, Ethan became a one-man wrestling federation. There were no apologies, No gifts, no remorse, only insults, curses, red eyes, raised fists. One awful afternoon, he dragged her outside and beat her in front of the security guard, who looked away like he didn't want unemployment. Melissa cried till her throat burned. The charm had succeeded, yes, but it had not tied Ethan's love to her. It only tied his presence, his body, his darkness, not his heart. And the more she resisted, the more violent he became. One night, after a particularly brutal beating, Melissa could barely lift her arms. Her ribs ached, her vision danced. With trembling legs and swollen face, she ran, half walking, half limping, to the herbalist's shrine at the outskirts of Riverbank City. She collapsed at the man's feet like a broken statue. "Please!" she screamed. "Undo it! Undo everything! He will kill me!" The herbalist watched her quietly, his expression soft, almost pitying. "I warned you," he said gently. "Once the charm enters the river, no human can reverse it." Melissa shook her head violently, crying, coughing, trembling. "Please, I beg you, I didn't know. Take it back! Ha! Take it all back!" He sighed. "Unless you can retrieve the charm from the bottom of the river, your life is tied to his." The words hit her like thunder. She wailed. She tore at her hair. She screamed until her voice cracked, but the charm stayed in the river, and her fate stayed with Ethan. Broken, bruised, and wrapped in rough bandages, Melissa stumbled out of the shrine like a shadow of herself. Only then did she finally understand. She didn't steal Clara's blessings. She stole Clara's suffering, and now she was trapped inside it forever. The sun over Riverbank City was disrespectful that afternoon, hot like it had personal beef with everybody. The air was thick, dusty, and loud, with Danfo horns and street shouts. But for Melissa, the whole world felt heavier than her bandaged ribs. Every step she took reminded her of the choices she made and the life she tried to steal. Her heartbreak wasn't the romantic kind. It was the type that whispered, "You used your hand to buy premium tears." For the first time since the charm-bound disaster began, Melissa caught her reflection in a shop's glass window. What she saw wasn't a slay queen. It was a public warning sign. Bruised cheek, swollen lip, eyes as dull as old batteries. A tear dropped before she even realized she was crying. She muttered to herself, "I think I need to go somewhere. Yes, it's a must I do that." Meanwhile, Clara's new life is directly opposite. Clara had quietly relocated to a small, self-contained apartment on the outskirts of Riverbank City, far from Ethan, far from drama, far from wounds. She'd lost weight, yes, heartbreak could do that, but she had gained something else: peace. The kind that glows on a woman's face, even without makeup. The kind that makes neighbors say, "This woman is going through things, but she's still fine." She has returned to her catering business and had buried all her time in it. The catering business was growing. She smiled more than she used to. And most importantly, she slept without fear. But surprisingly, Melissa took a commercial motorcycle, her bones screaming each time the bike hit a pothole. Hawkers and passers-by stared at her bruises, but she didn't care. Shame had already left her body. By the time she reached Clara's door, her legs gave up. She dropped to her knees and whispered, "Clara, please open the door." When Clara stepped outside, holding a bowl of pepper soup, her breath caught. Standing there was the woman who betrayed her, the friend who smiled in her face while poisoning her home. Melissa looked like someone life had beaten with a frying pan. "Clara, I'm sorry," Melissa whispered, shaking like wet laundry. "I ruined everything. I wanted your husband, your life, your peace." She burst into choking sobs. "I used charms, Clara. I forced everything. Now look at me. I'm dying inside. Please, forgive me." Clara stared at her for a long moment. Memories flashed. Laughter, sisterhood, betrayal, heartbreak, homelessness. Clara gently set the bowl aside. She didn't hug her, but she didn't push her away either. "He beats me, Clara," Melissa cried. "Every day. Outside, inside, even in front of the security man. The herbalist said the charm can't be undone. I'm trapped. Please, help me." Clara let out a long, tired sigh, the sigh of a woman who had carried too much for too long. After a heavy pause, she finally said, "Melissa, I forgive you." Melissa broke down completely, sobbing into her palms. But Clara wasn't done. She added softly, firmly, "I forgive you, but we will never be friends again." Melissa froze, her heart scattered like a car in hot oil. "You broke something you cannot repair," Clara continued. "I'm not your enemy, but I'm not your friend anymore. May God help you, but our road has ended." Then, without looking back, Clara picked up her bowl, entered her room, and closed the door. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't bitterness. It was closure. Melissa stood there for a long time, staring at the closed door, the only door that had ever opened for her with genuine love. She had lost Clara, not to Ethan, not to another woman, but to her own wickedness. When she finally turned to leave, a sharp pain stabbed her chest, the charm pulling her back like an invisible chain. Every attempt to walk away from Ethan felt like death grabbing her by the heart. So she returned back to the mansion she once admired, back to the man she once fantasized about, back to the nightmare she created with her own hands. This time she walked through the gate, not as a wife, not as a conqueror, but as a prisoner whose jailer wore a wedding ring. Ethan Mendez's mansion at Hillcrest Estate, Riverbank City, was vibrating that night. Music blasted like the DJ was fighting his village people. People were laughing, shouting, clinking glasses, and dancing like they were being paid per move. The front door was wide open, because why close it when your house has turned into a nightclub? And inside? Ethan Mendez was in his usual element. Women whipped around him like Christmas decorations. His friends drank and smoked with the excitement of men who had zero responsibilities in life. Then Melissa walked in, bandaged, bruised, tired, heart empty. But Ethan? He didn't blink. He didn't frown. He didn't even pretend to care. He simply lifted a finger and pointed toward the kitchen like she was one of the housemaids. "Go serve my guests." And like a prisoner with an invisible chain pulling her neck, she obeyed. She carried trays with shaking hands. She poured drinks while men whispered, "Ah! No be Madam Mendez be this. Why she resemble person we life beat?" Some laughed, some pitied her. Nobody helped. Ethan pulled two different women onto his lap, laughing loudly. At one point, he grabbed a girl in a sparkling red dress and disappeared into the bedroom, door slamming behind him, while the loud music continued like the house had no conscience. Melissa kept serving wine. One glass slipped from her shaking hand. Pia! It shattered on the tiles. The room went silent. Everybody watched. Ethan rushed out from the room, walked to her, and landed a slap so heavy it sounded like thunder hitting cement. She fell to her knees, dizzy, humiliated, tears dropping into the broken glass like rain falling into gutter water. The herbalist's warning echoed, "If you try to leave him, you will die." And then she understood everything. She wasn't a wife. She wasn't a madam. She wasn't even in competition with anyone. She was simply a prisoner who signed her own bondage. The night after the last drunk guest staggered out and the music finally died, Melissa cleaned the entire house, picking up bottles, wiping stains, sweeping the mess that wasn't hers. Her hands shook. Her back ached. Her heart felt like broken china. She stared at a shattered wine bottle and whispered to herself, "This is the life I wanted. See me now." A bitter smile escaped her lips. Even she couldn't believe the madness she entered with her full chest. Elsewhere in Riverbank City, far away in her small apartment decorated with hope and scented candles, Clara was thriving. Her catering business had gone viral on social media. Her customer base was expanding. Her smile had returned. And after 2 years, love found her again. Not the forced, painful, pretentious kind, but gentle, kind, patient, and surprisingly wealthy. Wealthy in peace, wealthy in respect, wealthy in money too. God is balanced. Her new fiancé was an investor who adored her. He proposed live at a charity event. The cameras caught it. Blogs posted it. TV stations replayed it. Evening news, local chef Clara engaged to billionaire Alex Forbes. Back in the mansion. Melissa and Ethan were eating dinner in silence. While he was eating, she was standing and watching like a decorative statue. Suddenly, Ethan froze, pointed at the TV, squinted. "Melissa, is that my wife Clara?" How come someone else is proposing to her? Melissa swallowed painfully and nodded. Yes, that was your wife, Clara, but I am your wife now. Ethan turned slowly, shock melting into rage. Wait, first, how did you become my wife? Her eyes widened, and right there, in one instant of twisted clarity, something inside him snapped. He pounced. The beating that followed wasn't just anger. It was madness mixed with alcohol, pride, and the sudden shock of realizing he was married to the wrong woman. He beat her until she couldn't scream anymore. Beat her until her breath stuttered. Beat her until her vision blurred. The last thing Melissa saw before she passed out was Clara on the TV screen, smiling, glowing, loved, happy, living the life she tried to steal. While Melissa lay on the floor of the mansion that had become her golden prison. Melissa woke up in the hospital like a crushed biscuit soaked inside hot tea. Everything hurt. Her bones felt like they were arguing. Her chest felt like someone had used it for football practice. Nurses rushed around her bed. Doctors shook their heads, and one young house officer whispered, "Sir, I've never seen someone deteriorate like this in just 8 hours." The senior doctor adjusted his glasses and replied, "My friend, write it in your notes. This is not ordinary physical trauma. This one is spiritual plus emotional plus stubbornness." Another nurse sighed dramatically. Even her blood pressure is confused, everyone agreed. Melissa wasn't just injured, she was fading, inside and outside. Her skin looked drained, her eyes were swollen, her voice cracked when she tried to speak. Her body was shutting down the way bad generator shuts down. Gradually, noisily, and embarrassingly. Meanwhile, while Melissa fought for her life, Ethan Mendez, the self-appointed Lord of Irresponsibility, was at home at 5:30 a.m. scratching his head and trying to fry egg like a man who had never met a frying pan before. Pan too hot, gas too high, grease too much. A more responsible man would have turned off the heat. Ethan? He leaned closer. The oil whooshed, the flame whoofed, and in 3 seconds, the entire kitchen caught fire. Before he could shout, "Jesus!" His curtains ignited. The dining table lit up, smelled his eyes. He tried to fetch water, but instead of water, he grabbed kerosene. As the Yoruba people say, "Nahu no get sense, they mix fire and kerosene." The moment the liquid touched the flame, half the house exploded into a bright morning bonfire. By dawn, the mighty mansion of Ethan Mendez had turned to ashes. His cars? Gone. His designer suits? Gone. Documents? Gone. His house? Gone. His dignity? Well, what dignity? People gathered on the street whispering, "See life, the man we dey do party every day, now na fire do party for am." Ethan stood outside barefoot, smelling of smoke, coughing, confused, and finally humbled by the same life he used to brag about. Somewhere else in Riverbank City, peace was blooming. Clara West, once heartbroken, once thrown out, once humiliated, was now 6 months pregnant, glowing like a woman that God himself was personally oiling every night. Her skin, smooth. Her smile, bright. Her joy, pure. Alex Forbes treated her like a fragile diamond wrapped in velvet. Foot massages. Cravings at midnight. "Baby, are you comfortable?" Every 15 minutes. "Baby, should I buy this?" Every 10 minutes. "Baby, did you breathe well today?" Every hour. She was pampered to the point where even the unborn child was flexing inside her womb. One afternoon, wrapped in her satin maternity gown, Clara stood before her mirror, hands resting gently on her belly. Her eyes glistened with gratitude. She whispered to her reflection, "Thank God Melissa broke me out of that chain." She smiled softly, because if she didn't betray me, I would never have met Alex. Sometimes God uses heartbreak to open new doors. Her baby kicked gently, almost as if agreeing. Hello, beautiful viewers. Life can be unpredictable, dramatic, and sometimes even hilarious, just like everything you've seen today. From Melissa's sudden health crash, to Ethan losing his house over one frying egg, to Clara glowing like a goddess in her new marriage. One thing is clear. Moral lessons. Not everyone who leaves your life is a loss. Some breaks are blessings in disguise. Never envy anyone. Destinies shift faster than morning weather. And please, never fry eggs when your mind is not settled. Disaster is real. Above all, be grateful for growth, healing, and the new doors life opens. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to find out what shocking twist is coming next, hit like, tap subscribe, and turn on your notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter. See you in the next video. Beautiful viewers.